What's poppin', my Thunderbolts? It's VMT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show, y'all. Let us talk about what's next in the world of the MCU following the events of the Thunderbolts, one of the best MCU movies ever made, in my opinion. So, let's just go ahead and jump into it. And of course, heavy spoilers up ahead for this movie, so if you have not seen the Thunderbolts, you may want to hold off on watching this video. Or don't. We can hang out if you guys want to. Just don't bring your best friend Becky, because I gotta say, Becky's kind of a bitch. I'm just kidding. I'm sure your favorite Becky is fine. Now, if you've seen the movie, then you already know that the Thunderbolts ends with Yelena, Bucky, Alexei, Ava, and John Walker all braving Bob's inner darkness together in order to save Bob and New York from being swallowed by Bob's overwhelmingly powerful dark inner void entity. A commentary on how leaning on one's friends during dark times can help one endure even the most invasive and pervasive inner darknesses. And after using the power of friendship to save Bob, the Thunderbolts accidentally find themselves in the middle of one of Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine's press conferences, where a cornered Valentina would announce this Thunderbolts team as America's new Avengers, primarily because the Thunderbolts stopped her from using a mentally unstable super soldier as the next protector of America, and the Thunderbolts were going to beat her ass all the way back to season 1 of Seinfeld otherwise. This then leads these 6 new heroes into massive stardom, as the entire world views them as Earth's new team of mightiest heroes. And I mean, you've got to be pretty damn mighty to find your way on a Wheaties box. Just ask Michael Jordan. Then, much like Paul covered in his breakdown of the post-credit scene of the Thunderbolts that you can watch here, we flash forward 14 months into the future, where the new Avengers have adjusted to their new lives as government-sanctioned celebrity superheroes. However, because Captain America has officially retained the copyright for the Avengers name and is building his own Avengers team to follow up Steve Rogers' original team, this squad of new Avengers are forced to try to think up of a new name, with Alexei recommending that they just change the S into a Z to become the Avengers, which is both ingenious and hilarious. But then, as Yelena mentions a crisis in space, the Avengers watch footage of a spacecraft entering Earth's atmosphere, with that spacecraft being none other than the spaceship of the Fantastic Four, finally making their way to modern-day Earth 616 after years of MCU fans wondering when the hell they were going to show up. Now, this all being said, one of the next things that we can expect out of this newly formed New Avengers team is, of course, a massive showdown between the New Avengers and this mysterious new threat from the cosmos at the start of Avengers Doomsday. With the New Avengers being government-sanctioned heroes, they are the team that the world is going to look to when it comes to defending the planet from other alien invasions like the original Avengers did. So pretty much as soon as the Fantastic Four land on Earth, expect the New Avengers and Bob to be ready to greet them with violence. Good old violence. And knowing this temperamental team of New Avengers, it's probably going to be a punch first, ask questions later type of deal, because that's basically what they've all sort of been trained to do while working under Val. If I had to guess, we're probably going to see Ghost fight the Invisible Woman, Red Guardian, US Agent, and Bucky fight the Thing, Sentry fight the Human Torch in the sky, while team leaders Yelena and Mr. Fantastic go head-to-head. But however these matchups end up going, we are definitely going to see these heroes punch each other for a bit before attempting to work together to solve the overall incursionary threats that are causing a crisis in space for both of their worlds. However, like I said before, these New Avengers are currently the only Avengers team officially sanctioned by the United States government, and because of this, they are likely going to be ordered to do some pretty unethical and messed up things in the name of global security, something that both versions of Captain America were extremely worried about and staunchly against, as they believe that the Avengers worked best as an independent entity of enhanced and superpowered heroes that all the governments of the world should just trust to do the right thing. And given what we know about the incursions from the comics and what Reed Halpert of the 838 Illuminati said in Multiverse of Madness, it is clear that in order for MCU Earth 616 to survive this cosmic clashing of timelines, the other Earth must be destroyed. So, this being the case, and knowing how America tends to do things during times of war, I would not be surprised if Val or some other type of government entity orders the New Avengers to use Bob to completely decimate the Fantastic Four's home world, thrusting the New Avengers into a massive moral dilemma. Like, it would be absolutely wild if we saw the Void entity re-emerge from Bob once more to cover the entirety of the Fantastic Four's world in darkness in order to remove that world from the equation. I mean, it would be insane for Marvel to pull such a move after the Fantastic Four successfully saved their planet from being eaten by Galactus in their movie, but we have seen such things happen before. I mean, for example, Thor Ragnarok had Thor and his homies successfully save the people of Asgard from the destruction of their realm, only for Thanos to show up at the beginning of Avengers Infinity War to completely wipe out all of those survivors. So in a similar way, there's a chance that we could definitely see Sentry wipe out the people of the Fantastic Four's world. I mean, it would be quite the dark direction to turn towards, but this movie is called Avengers Doomsday after all, and not Avengers Everything's Gonna Be Fine on this fine Tuesday. And honestly, if I had to guess, while the new Avengers are facing off against the Fantastic Four, we could see Sam Wilson and his Avengers go head-to-head with an alternate universe X-Men, just like the leader was teasing at the end of Captain America Brave New World. Of course, I'm talking about the X-Men universe that we saw Monica Rambeau fall into after she sacrificed herself to stop an incursion between her home universe and this new universe of mutants. And we could possibly also eventually see the government turn Sentry onto Monica Rambeau's X-Men planet as well, when that planet also shows up in the sky next to the Fantastic Four's planet. And again, much like Reed Halpert said in Multiverse of Madness, this would be because both Monica Rambeau and the Fantastic Four left the MCU 616 timeline for other universes. And since they both stayed in those universes and left their mark on those realities, their presence on those Earths will lead to both of those Earths crashing into Earth 616 at the same time for Avengers Doomsday. So the chances of Val and the government asking this team of new Avengers to unleash Sentry onto both of these planets is quite high, because only he really has the type of godlike power to destroy entire planets with ease. Well, outside of entities like Captain Marvel or the Incredible Hulk, who will most likely be on Sam Wilson's Avengers team instead. But while we're on the subject of these different Avengers teams, we should talk about what we could see happen with the new Avengers after the Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars multiverse conflict is over. Because with the state that the MCU is in right now, some hardcore chaos could be brewing for the future. And as far as we know right now, there appears to be at least 3 separate Avengers teams forming in the MCU. We have Yelena's New Avengers, Sam Wilson's Bane Avengers, and Kamala Khan's Young Avengers, who we saw Ms. Marvel beginning to assemble at the end of the Marvels. The existence of these 3 new teams, combined with the world's growing fear and resentment towards enhanced individuals, might just be paving the way towards a second superhuman Civil War conflict in the near future. We are definitely starting to see history repeat itself with the reintroduction of legislation that strictly prohibits vigilante activity ever since Mayor Wilson Fisk enacted the Safer Streets initiative to outlaw vigilantism and severely punish those who fight crime outside the law. So as of right now, this new Avengers team is the only superhero team in America that has the blessing of the United States government, while Captain America's team clearly does not, as Sam Wilson is strongly against the idea of political intervention when it comes to the Avengers. So after all this multiverse mayhem is all wrapped up at the end of Avengers Secret Wars, it'll only be a matter of time before these new Avengers are forced to go head-to-head with Sam Wilson's Avengers, ordering the OG Avengers to stand down their activities if they refuse to submit to the will of the elected officials. And after the events of these 2 last MCU films, public fear towards superhuman people are probably the highest that it's ever been. Not only did the President of the United States turn into a red rage monster, but now we have a shadowy flying demon turning innocent New Yorkers into concrete shadow puppets. So when Captain America inevitably stands up against the idea of mandatory government regulation for his Avengers, the fearful public is going to see this new Captain America as being selfish and completely unreasonable, especially if Sam Wilson has a Green Hulk on his squad that has historically gone berserk in public spaces a couple of times in the past. The people are not going to be big fans of Captain America's rogue team of vigilantes at all. And same with Kamala Khan's new growing team of Young Avengers, a group of enthusiastic yet inexperienced youths who try to defend the people in their own unique way. Because even though this group of younger Avengers mean well, their inexperience will undoubtedly lead to major goof-ups and accidents that will further cause the public to distrust superheroes. Because remember when that team of new warriors accidentally blew up that school in the comics, leading to the events of the original Civil War event? I mean, even though I don't think the Young Avengers in the MCU are going to mess up that badly, I can still totally see something like that happening with the Young Avengers that could further justify a public outcry for more regulation of irregularly enhanced people. And if that were to happen, then we could potentially see a three-way civil war happening between these young Avengers and the two other team of older Avengers, with both teams of old heads telling this younger generation to stand down and leave the fighting to the professionals, because they'll probably believe that these young Avengers getting involved during such a politically sensitive time is only going to make things worse for all crime fighters. And also, do not forget to hit up the Heavy Spoilers merch store to pick up one of our Thunderbolts-inspired shirts. This time around, we've got a Thunderbolt shirt in the style of the old Thundercats logo. This is the first time one of my ideas has been turned into a shirt by our wonderful artist Sheridan, and it could be yours today with only a few clicks over at the Heavy Spoiler merch store. So hurry up and get you one. But future of the new Avengers aside, I do want to spend some time talking about Robert Reynolds specifically, and the nature of the Sentry's powers. Because we learn in the Thunderbolts that Bob was experimented on by Val's organization called Ox and given a form of super soldier serum called the Golden Sentry Serum, which in turn gave Bob Superman-like abilities like flight, invincibility, heat vision, regenerative healing, super speed, and super strength, on top of other abilities such as telekinesis and electromagnetic interfacing. However, just like Dr. Abraham Erskine told Steve Rogers in the first Avenger movie, the super soldier serum tends to bring out what is inside the recipient. And with the Golden Sentry Serum being an extremely amplified version of the Super Soldier Serum, not only was Bob drastically enhanced, but Bob's inner darkness was as well, becoming the entity the Void. Sentry's Void persona then affords Bob the ability to connect with people's minds, making them hallucinate the memories that they dread the most, with those memories sometimes driving those under Bob's spell to put themselves in some sort of fatal danger, like an angry Bob would do to John Walker before John would almost absent-mindedly walk himself down the elevator shaft. Not only this, but the Void's powers also have the ability to completely cover miles and miles of land in complete pitch black darkness, like we see at the end of the film when all of New York is turned into a Shadowland. Now, this all being said, we have seen powers like the Void's before in the MCU, specifically with both the Scarlet Witch Wanda Maximoff, as well as one of the 3 Infinity Stones of Darkness, known as the Reality Stone, aka the Ether. This is because the Golden Sentry Serum amplified Bob's inner darkness to a monumental degree that it became a living being of primordial darkness, the type of darkness that existed after the Big Bang but before the universe was organized enough to create stars. This period is known in astronomy as the Cosmic Dark Ages, and it's a period that was explored in great length in 2013's Thor: The Dark World, the very movie where the Reality Stone is first introduced as the universe-darkening weapon, the Ether. The Cosmic Dark Ages would begin around 380,000 years after the universe exploded into existence, because that's around the amount of time it took for things to cool down enough for the first particles to form. So everything was basically like this big old realm of dark cosmic soup. But in the fictional MCU, this is when the universe's first beings emerged from this first layer of reality known as the Ether, and those dark aliens were known as the Dark Elves. Their leader, Malekith, was apparently so powerful that he was able to take a ton of that raw primordial darkness and forge it into the Dark Ether entity. Like, that dude straight up made an Infinity Stone by himself. And Malekith was sort of forced to do this because the Celestials started filling the universe with bright-ass stars, completely ruining the dark emo vibe that the Dark Elves were enjoying in their universe. And much like how North America was colonized by the whites from Europe, this dark universe was stolen by the Celestials and the Asgardians, who took their one realm of shadows and turned it into 9 realms of light, with everything outside of those borders of light being the Shadow Realm, like we learned of in Thor 4. So, to reclaim his stolen cosmic land, Malekith created the Ether in order to cover everything in darkness, with the goal of converting all the atomic particles that made up the entire universe into dark matter, the same type of matter that was everywhere before the rise of the light and stars. This all being said, even though the Void itself is not a reality stone, because the Void is primordial darkness made real, the Void is able to convert all matter around Bob into dark matter, much like the Ether does. And not only this, but because this darkness power is also related to the Cosmic Dark Ages after the Big Bang, this means that Sentry's powers are also linked to the dark powers of the Scarlet Witch, who, as we learned in the WandaVision TV show on Disney+, has her chaos powers directly tied to the cosmic microwave background radiation of the universe, which has ties to the Big Bang.
My equipment registered an extremely high level of CMBR. That's...
relic radiation dating back to the Big Bang.
Yeah.
And because of this, in the same way that Wanda was able to make Tony Stark, Thor, Natasha Romanoff, and Steve Rogers experience the most dreaded thoughts in their minds, Bob's void powers allow him to use this primordial darkness power to do the same. And I've found that this is very likely due to how chaos ether darkness in the MCU tends to be deeply connected to human emotion. And we actually see this time and time again in a number of other Marvel projects, like how Wanda entered a state of immense depression after having the chaos energy inside of her amplified by Hydra's experiments with the Mind Stone, or how All Black the Necrosword fed on Gore the God Butcher's dark emotions and amplified those emotions to make him into a god-killing machine, or how Wanda, Agatha, and Sinister Strange's use of the Darkhold amplified their despair and longing for their lost loved ones, or how the Dweller in Darkness was able to manipulate Wenwu's despair, making him hallucinate his wife's voice, or how Yondu uses his emotions to control the chaos magic in his arrows, or how the ether reacted strongly to Jane Foster's emotions when it was inside of her body. And this isn't even mentioning how primordial darkness will affect the emotions of MCU characters in the future, like how the Venom symbiote tends to make Spider-Man more emo and angry, or how the dark ebony blade of the Black Knight tends to feed on its wielder's negative emotions to make them more powerful, or how Spider-Man villain Martin Lee uses his primordial darkness powers to turn people into rage monsters. This is because the red and black chaos darkness in the Marvel Cinematic Universe can absorb and manipulate light in a multitude of ways, with one of those ways being neural-electrical interfacing of the human neurological system, which Maria Hill listed as part of the Scarlet Witch's power set in Age of Ultron.
Her thing is neuroelectric interfacing, telekinesis, mental manipulation. He's fast and she's weird.
So Sentry is able to use this darkness much like Wanda in order to make the entirety of New York experience hallucinations of the mind, while simultaneously turning them into shadows of dark matter like Malekith did with the ether. It's all connected, man, and it's all part of my big Marvel theory called the Marvel Trigger Theory, which explains how pretty much all the superpowers, energies, and infinity stones of the MCU are connected to real-life science. Because much like Thor told Jane Foster in the very first Thor movie, magic and science in the MCU are one and the same. If you have not seen my breakdown of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie on this channel, I highly recommend that you go watch that because I go into this Marvel Trigger Theory in great detail and cover the scientific nature of the primordial reality stone, and how this red reality stone is one of the 3 dark infinity stones out of the 6, with the other 2 dark infinity stones being the purple power stone and the blue space stone. But anyways, yes, I found this chaos connection with Bob to be notable enough to talk about and bring to your attention because it might serve to explain why the Void's powers work a tad bit differently than they do in the comics. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let us know what you guys thought of the Thunderbolts movie in the comments section down below. But like always, you guys can follow me at MasterTainment on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky, wherever I am on the internet. But most importantly, follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube by hitting that subscribe button and maybe even hitting that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. But like always, I've been MT, you guys have been absolutely amazing, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.